Hey, and thank you for being here. Seriously, only if this story truly resonates with you. Drop where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. I always read those. This all started the day I got publicly accused of hurting a kid I had just saved, and somehow my own family ended up turning on me too. I didn't see that coming at all. I'm Marcus, I'm 29, and that day started like any normal Saturday. I had just gotten off a long shift and stopped by a big warehouse store to grab a few things. Nothing special, just groceries and some stuff for the week. I remember pushing my cart down one of those wide aisles, the kind stacked almost 10 feet high with heavy boxes, and I heard a kid laughing somewhere nearby. Not unusual, but it was loud, like too close to the stacks. I glanced over and saw this little boy climbing up the side of a pallet like it was a playground, and I slowed down because it just didn't feel right. I looked around expecting a parent to step in, but instead I saw his mom a few feet away, head down, scrolling on her phone like nothing was happening. And I remember thinking, someone needs to say something. But I hesitated. I didn't want to be that guy telling someone how to parent their kid, so I just stood there for a second longer than I should have. And then I heard this shift, like a low creak. The boxes above him started to tilt just slightly, and my stomach dropped. I knew immediately this was about to go bad, really bad. And in that moment I didn't think, I just moved. But what happened right after I pulled that kid to safety? That's the part nobody there understood. And the worst part is they thought I was the problem, not what was about to fall on him. I grabbed the kid around his shoulders and pulled him back just as the stack behind him shifted and a couple of boxes slid off and hit the floor with a loud thud, not on him, not even close, but loud enough to make him start crying instantly. I was still crouched there catching my breath when his mom finally looked up and ran over, and for half a second, I honestly thought she was going to thank me, or at least check if her kid was okay, but she did not even look at the fallen boxes. She went straight for me, her face already tense, and she snapped, "What did you just do to him?" And I froze, because I did not even understand the question. I said he was about to get hurt. I just pulled him back, but she cut me off. "Do not touch my son. Why are you touching my son like that?" And the kid was still crying, clinging to her now and pointing at me like I was the reason he was scared. I tried to explain again, slower this time. I said the boxes were falling. I stopped him from getting hit. But she shook her head like I was lying in front of her, and her voice got louder. "You pushed him. I saw you. You pushed him." And that is when people started to notice. A couple nearby stopped their carts. Someone else pulled out their phone, and I could feel the attention shift onto me like I had just done something wrong. I remember saying, "No, I did not push him. I pulled him away. You can look, the boxes fell right there," and I pointed behind me. But she did not even turn around. She just stepped closer and said, "You need to stay right here. Do not move. I am getting someone." And that tone, that assumption like I was already guilty, it hit me harder than anything else. Because in that moment, it was not about what actually happened. It was about what she decided happened. And everyone around us was starting to believe her version, before even asking a single question. And I realized, standing there with people staring and whispering, that this was no longer about helping a kid. This was turning into something else. And for the first time, I felt it, this quiet shift inside me, like I needed to stop explaining and start paying attention to how bad this could actually get. She came back with a store manager and a security guy within maybe 2 minutes. And by then the story had already changed. I could hear it before they even reached me. She was saying he grabbed my son and threw him down. He hurt him. And I just stood there thinking, that is not even close to what happened. But the way she said it, so confident, so loud, it made it sound real. The manager looked at me first, not her, and asked me to explain. And I started from the beginning. I said the kid was climbing, the boxes were shifting. I pulled him back before anything fell. But she immediately cut in again. "No, he is lying. I saw him push my son, and now my son is crying because of him." And the kid, still upset, nodded along, not because he understood, but because he was scared. And that was enough for people watching to start forming their own version. Someone behind me even said, "I saw him grab the kid," which was technically true, but completely twisted. And that is how fast it spread, one detail at a time, turning into something else entirely. Then the security guy asked if anyone had video. And that is when I saw it. A man holding his phone said, "I caught part of it," and my chest tightened because I did not know what angle he got or what it looked like. From where he was standing, he showed the screen to the manager, and I tried to lean in, but they held it away from me, and I could only hear pieces of what they were saying. "Looks like he pulls the kid, and then the kid falls." And that was it. That one sentence changed everything, because now it sounded like proof. The manager's tone shifted. He asked me to step aside while they figured things out, and the security guy positioned himself closer to me, not aggressive, just enough to make it clear I was not. Free to leave, I remember pulling out my phone thinking, maybe I should call someone, maybe I should get ahead of this, but my hands just hovered there, because I could feel it slipping out of my control, every word, every glance, every second. And then the manager turned back to me and said we might need to involve the police just to sort this out. And in that moment, everything inside me dropped, because I realized this was no longer about clearing up a misunderstanding. This was turning into something official, and I had no idea how to stop it. They moved me to the side near the customer service desk, and it felt like the entire store had quietly decided who I was before anything was even confirmed. I could hear her still talking behind me, repeating the same story over and over, louder each time, like she needed everyone to believe it. She even told the manager he slammed my son to the ground, and hearing that made my stomach turn, because that is not what happened, not even close. I tried again to explain. I asked them, please just look at the cameras properly, the full angle, not just that one clip, but the manager kept saying we are reviewing everything, just stay calm and wait. So I stood there with a security guard a few feet away watching me like I might try to leave, and I pulled out my phone and called my older brother first. I do not even know why, maybe I just needed someone to hear me say what actually happened. But when he picked up and I told him quickly what was going on, he went quiet for a second and then said, "Are you serious right now? What did you do, Marcus?" And that hit harder than anything else. I said, "I did not do anything. I saved the kid." But he just sighed and said, "Just cooperate, man. Do not make it worse," like he had already decided I was the problem too. I hung up and stared at my phone for a second. Then I texted him a longer explanation, sent it twice, just in case, and watched the message sit there delivered with no reply. I even tried calling my mom after that, thinking maybe she would at least listen, but it went straight to voicemail. And when I left a message, I could hear my own voice shaking more than I wanted it to. I said, "I did not do anything wrong. I just need someone on my side right now." But there was nothing back, no call, no text, nothing. And standing there surrounded by people who did not know me, watching me like I was dangerous, and hearing my own family hesitate to believe me, that is when it really settled in. This was not going to fix itself. No one was coming to clear my name for me, and I could not keep standing there, hoping someone would just understand, because they were not even trying to. And that was the moment something shifted in me. I stopped explaining, I stopped asking, and I started paying attention to what they were not showing me. Something in me just shut off. After that, I stopped trying to convince anyone and started watching instead. I looked at where the security cameras were mounted, how many angles there were, how long they had been reviewing that one short clip, and why no one had mentioned the full footage. Yet I walked up to the manager calmer this time and said, "I want you to pull every camera angle from the last 5 minutes, not just the one someone recorded on their phone." And for the first time, he hesitated just a little, like he realized they had rushed this. I stood there quietly, no arguing, no explaining, just waiting. And after a minute, he nodded and told someone to check the back system. And that was when the energy started to shift slightly, not enough for anyone to admit anything yet, but enough that people stopped whispering so loudly. I remember adjusting my jacket and catching a glimpse of my own reflection in the glass behind the counter. And for some reason that grounded me. I saw my work badge clipped to my pocket, still there. My name clear, Marcus Reed, the same badge I wear every day, the same routine, the same life that had nothing to do with what they were accusing me of. And it reminded me I knew who I was, even if no one else here did. A few minutes later, the manager came back holding a tablet. And this time he did not stand far away. He stood right in front of me and turned the screen so I could see it too. And I watched it all from a different angle, clearer, wider, the kid climbing higher than I even realized, the boxes shifting faster than it felt in the moment, and then me stepping and pulling him back just before everything dropped exactly how I remembered it. No push, no aggression, just timing. And for a second, no one said anything. The silence was heavier than all the noise before it, because now the truth was right there, and it was undeniable. And I slowly looked up from the screen back at them, back at her, and I realized this was the same moment from earlier, the same moment when everything started, except now I was not the one being judged anymore. This was where it turned in the end. Nothing dramatic happened after that, no shouting, no big scene, just a quiet shift that felt heavier than everything before. The manager cleared his throat and apologized, not loudly, not for everyone, just to me, and the security guard stepped back like he had been standing too close this whole time. The woman stood there holding her son, and for the first time she actually looked at the screen again, like she was hoping it would change, but it did not. And when she finally spoke, her voice was lower. She said, "I am sorry, I thought I saw something else." And I nodded, but I did not say it is okay, because it was not. I just said you should have been watching him. And that was it. No anger, no lecture, just the truth. and I picked up my cart and walked away, leaving everything else behind, the looks, the whispers, all of it. And later that night, I sat in my car for a while before going inside, just staring at my reflection again, the same face, the same name on my badge. Nothing had changed, and yet something felt clearer, like a line had been drawn inside me that I had not seen before. I realized how quickly people will decide who you are without knowing anything about you, and how dangerous it is to keep trying to prove yourself to people who are not even looking for the truth. And now things are quieter. My brother texted me later saying he saw the footage after I sent it, and he was wrong. My mom called the next day and apologized for not picking up, and I listened, but I did not rush to make them feel better about it. I just let it be what it was, because I learned something that day. You can do everything right and still be misunderstood, and that does not mean you have to chase approval or shrink yourself to make others comfortable. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stand still and let the truth catch up on its own. And if you are listening to this and you have ever been in a moment where people judged you before knowing you, I hope you remember you are allowed to trust yourself even when no one else does. Thank you for being here and hearing this out. It really does mean something. And if this story stayed with you even a little, I would like to know where you are listening from and what time it is for you right now. And if you want more stories like this, there are others waiting in the playlist, ones that might hit closer than you expect, and maybe the next one will be the one you needed to hear today.